Guys, I told you before when we were having lunch the other day that Tracy and Cruz have their own story, and I'm gonna let them tell you that about their adventures with RVing and why they decided to come off the road. Most of the time you hear me talk about all the joys of being on the road and all the benefits, and I'm interviewing people who are on the road and show you their vans and their rigs and things like that. But there's also the times when people want to stop RVing, whether that be they've been on the road for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, or maybe even a year. And they're gonna share their story and tell you kind of the things that they experienced that helped them make that decision. This is Tracy and Cruz. Cruz is on the left, Tracy on the right. And they started out, well, I guess I'll just let you tell your story. So why don't you tell us how you started out RVing and what you purchased. What kind of RV did you purchase?
We started out RVing because we saw you and others on YouTube and I was having surgery and I was sitting on the sofa watching TV, and I saw people that were very happy and joyful and independent and free. And I got a little envious because I was still in the rat race, and so I decided that this was something I wanted to try and do.
And I figured that I could do it too, because I have spent a year running around the world in 12 countries with just a backpack on my front and a backpack on the back. And I thought I was really happy doing that, so this might work out. And I had some contract jobs that were flexible, and so I decided to give it a whirl. And we looked at a lot of different vans, and we watched hundreds of hours, including of you and many others. And so she's really into quality, and so she really led the way in picking like a Pleasure Way Sprinter van. And so we got
we got a good deal on it. We knew we did not want to build out our own van, so we decided to get something. So we bought a used Pleasure Way 2016. It sold everything like everybody else
We
does.
had a 2,500 square foot house that we had just bought 2 years before and furnished. And so then I led the way to selling a lot of stuff, and we had parties, and we had friends come over and take a lot of stuff from our garage. And finally, we, after like 5 months of trying to sell the house, we sold it, and off we went in October 2019.
And it felt good at the time to get rid of all our stuff.
You were excited, like most people.
Yeah, we were excited. We were going on an adventure.
We had a lot to learn. We knew we had to learn about the propane system, and just we needed to be more up on, you know, how the sewage system worked. We had done a lot of research, but we set out knowing that we had a lot to learn.
Yeah, which is pretty typical for people, right?
Yeah.
Doing that, because this isn't, you know, the standard lifestyle that most people are used to, so you have to learn.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward a little bit. So you were, let's see, you were in the class or the Pleasure Way for how long before you got the next rig?
Until March, from October to March. So
Yeah.
it's like 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you decided to trade in your van for...
We decided we were starting to get a little bit impatient with each other, and we had to take turns getting dressed in the morning because there wasn't enough room.
And so we fortunately had a separate car that I drove behind the van, and before the coronavirus hit, you know, we were making heavy use of Starbucks
And Panera Bread
as our second office.
Yeah. So it wasn't too bad then. I mean, I'm glad we changed the rig before COVID shut everything down.
But what happened was, I think we were both realizing that it was really cramped living space for two of us, and for trying to work as well. And so we finally admitted out loud to each other in January that while it was true that we were still alive, we weren't really that comfortable. You know, we were kind of surviving and not thriving. And so once we realized that we didn't want to give up the lifestyle, we thought we still wanted to travel and experience it. We were just in the very beginning stages, and so we knew we had to go up in size and we needed some doors to have some privacy from each other. So that was our big criteria, and we didn't want to do a Class A bus, and so we went with a fifth wheel. And we did a toy hauler so that the back where the vehicle normally would be, the back was used as an office. And only one of us could work there, really.
So theoretically, that solved your problem of being in the van and being cramped, and now you have an office space.
Yeah,
and everything.
so at first, we had a little honeymoon period with the fifth wheel, and it was 300 square feet instead of 80 square feet. And it should just be fine. Yeah.
And it was very comfortable. It felt homey, and we liked it for a while. But in the end, it's still, even with the door between us, it was still noisy for me working or taking phone calls and stuff like that. So it was still, but the biggest downer with the fifth wheel for us was the responsibility of such a big vehicle on the road. Driving it, I thought after a few months, it would be a piece of cake, but I never felt totally comfortable with it. So
yeah, she was pretty nervous driving it, and even more nervous with me driving it. So she finally admitted to me in November, it just felt like kind of a wait, like an accident waiting to happen.
And you had been on the road for how long at this point?
about
13 months total in both rigs.
Okay.
And then I was kind of pissed because we had invested a lot in the lifestyle, and I knew I didn't want to go shopping for another rig. Oh my God.
I think Tracy wanted to hold on because she's more resilient than me, and yeah, she's more resilient.
Once you decided that you didn't want it,
Yeah, you don't want it, but I got to a point where that was it. But initially, you start thinking, well, I'm not very successful. I need to do this differently, or you don't want to be a failure at something. You want to give it a fair shot and everything. And there was moments of joy where, mostly once we got in the rig and we headed down the road and to a new place, that was fun.
And what is it about you or me or both of us that made us not a good fit for RVing?
Well, I know you have your own answers to that about me, why I wasn't a good fit. Yeah. I think if I was single, I would definitely do it again.
In a van.
In a van. But I'm not a big vehicle person, so it wasn't compatible with me. I know you think I didn't get out enough or everything, but when COVID hit, it felt a little strange. Mm-hmm. So it was an unusual year that we were out on the road. But you have this smug look on your face. Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, what I'm thinking is that you don't really like camping.
I still don't completely agree with you. I like the sense of freedom and liberty and being able to go anywhere. We could do that in the van, but we couldn't do that with the fifth wheel. It was a big maneuver to move the fifth wheel.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's a huge responsibility. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't do it myself.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you can learn, for sure. You can learn.
Some people,
and I could, but
single women do it.
Yeah, it is a lot of work, I think, having a trailer, especially if you compare it to the fact that you guys were in a van originally. Right. It's a huge difference.
Yeah. So what about you? Do you think you could do it under different circumstances?
Well, I think that it's good for people who are doing it part-time or who are retired, who are not focused on working inside.
Get a job.
The people that ended up buying it from us said something that I thought was really significant, that they didn't want to live in it, they wanted to live out of it. And so I guess for people who were always hiking or mountain biking and exploring and out and about, and they love that, it's a great vehicle for that. But if you're inside it most of the time, either working, it's like dragging a living room around the country.
if anything, what did you learn from this process, or what was the one big takeaway for maybe your life? It doesn't necessarily have to be about RVing. It could be anything that happened to you during that time that you go, aha, like this is interesting, or I'm going to change this about my life.
Just something I learned, that even though I wanted to be off the grid as much as possible, you still rely on the grid. I mean, because of it was COVID. If we do it again, that we definitely maybe want a home base, or at least a piece of land to come back to that was ours. So I think that would be where it was most fun in the future, if it was shorter trips, so where we had some place to come back to home.
Yeah, I think as a couple, we're more into comfort than we realized, and just needing space. And we were just married exactly 2 years. On like pretty much the first day, we stayed overnight in the van, and so
it added 5 years to our relationship.
it did.
Shortened our honeymoon period. And I mean, to your question, we never fought in the 2 years before that we were married, and the 3 years we were together, like we did when we were in the fifth wheel.
Yeah, we were
Both parking it was a big
that's
issue,
rough.
and also when you're that close together as a couple,
It was
the
like
if you have
putting
any
a magnifying
problems,
glass.
it's the other person's problem. You know, it can only be that other person that's responsible for making you feel uncomfortable. So yeah, our marriage aged a lot in that year on the road.
And we kind of said to ourselves, okay, let's rent a house for a while and let's see how things improve. And things really did. It did improve. Living here in this house with space provided some needed relief. And I don't think I realized, and I'm not sure she realized, how stressed she felt in it. And maybe I didn't realize, because I was trying to make it work, I might not have realized
How much we were trying. Yeah.
how
Stressful.
it was a bit stressful, not being in the same place and always having to look for the next place and think about so many different things and repairing things that we're not interested in repairing.
But I mean, we did a lot that first year, and it probably would have gotten easier the second year because we'd already taken care of all those things and we'd learned so much.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, we might not have given it enough time. Even though we got rid of all our stuff and we'll have to get a house, our own house, and get stuff again, we don't shop like we used to shop anymore. We still don't need stuff.
We're not
We're still-
materialistic.
It scares me, even coming in this rented house that's furnished. It looks cluttered to me, and I can't imagine getting all this stuff all over again. I like feeling light and being able to go anywhere without carrying all that stuff.
Yeah, so that was
Well, that's
it.
a huge takeaway, right?
Yeah.
Is more minimalist lifestyle, less consumerism. And then, so it sounds like maybe in the future you might try this again on more of a part-time basis if you have your base home, which a lot of people really enjoy. I mean, I myself have been looking at potentially buying land and doing a base home sometime. I mean, I'll still travel quite a bit, but it's nice to have that kind of creature comfort of a home. And something to come back to if you need to, especially like with what happened with COVID.
Right.
So it was a tough year.
She is the love of my life.
So
Yes.
Yeah.
what advice do you have to someone who is starting out?
I would say be very aware of how outdoorsy you really are. How much time will you really spend outside the rig, hiking and biking and exploring and all of that, versus how much do you really like to be inside and learning and watching TV and that sort of thing. So I would say,
like you're picking on
I
me.
would say, no, babe, it's not personal. It's about them. I mean, really evaluate, like if you live in a sticks and bricks, how often do you get out of the house in a sticks and bricks? And I mean, like, are you a hiking nut? If so, this might be for you.
I think it depends if you're married or single. If you're single, I think yes, you can definitely do this, but I would pick a rig that is as small as you can be comfortable in, and so that you can be more flexible and go to more places and see more things.
Yeah.
And if you're married, I would suggest trying it first. We didn't.
We didn't.
RV before we went out.
We definitely didn't. And also, yeah.
Well, when you say trying, I mean like rent something.
Yeah. We didn't because it was expensive, and also because she just thought this is what we want to do for real.
I was determined. Yeah.
But I think the other thing is part of the reason we did this is so you could get out of the rat race and simply working from home. I mean, part of the rat race for you was the commute, like 45 minutes each way.
The commute and the going in the office and all that stuff. And I still, you know, luckily I work remotely now, and it brought me that, right? It forced me to find a remote only position, and that's good, and I want to maintain that. But yeah, if you're working and you have to maintain, you know, you have to be available, regular office hours and stuff. It's tough in a rig because you don't know who your neighbors are going to be. If they're going to be yelling with the kids next door, you know, if you're in a...
You have to make sure your internet's good.
You're always making sure you have internet.
Oh, yeah.
But there's some people that absolutely have a ball and love it, and they're the kind of couple that love to do absolutely everything together. If you're a couple that wants to really like spending time together doing the same things together, good on you, you know? We're just...
What are you trying to say?
we love going away and coming back to each other.
Mm-hmm. We need a little breaks from each other and a little bit of space. But, you know, a lot of people do. So that's the other thing is we had many of our friends do the 5-second tour of our van before we left. And many of our friends said, oh, I couldn't last with my husband for a week, or we would never be able to do this, that kind of thing. And we just said, well, they're not us. I mean, we are a superior couple. And we will be able to do this. And so I think we just learned the humbling reality that we're average. That we're like many other couples that really need to spend time apart and in separate rooms and not hearing each other on the phone and that sort of thing.
I just want to thank both Tracy and Cruz for agreeing to actually come on my channel and talk about this, because they were a little bit unsure. It's a vulnerable moment, I think. Would you say that? To talk about this and admit and talk about some of the things that happened that maybe weren't so great about van life, RV life, and I really appreciate them sharing their story with us because I think it's important to show both sides. So, thank you guys very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Amber.
you.
Nice. Guys, you know my channel is called Story Chasing, and it's all about creating moments and living your dreams. So make sure you're going out there and doing that every day and grab those stories. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Okay.